The United States of America half dollar 1776 to 1976 is a special commemorative coin issued to celebrate the 200th anniversary of American independence, widely known as the Bicentennial half dollar. It honors the signing of the United States Declaration of Independence in 1776 and the nation's 200th birthday in 1976. Unlike regular half dollars that carry a single year, this coin uniquely features the dual date 1776 to 1976 on the obverse to mark 2 centuries of American history. The coin was authorized by the United States Congress in 1973 as part of a broader bicentennial coinage program that also included special designs for the quarter and dollar. Production began in 1975 and continued through 1976, but no half dollars dated 1975 were struck, making the dual date especially significant. The obverse of the coin retains the familiar portrait of President John F. Kennedy, originally designed by Gilroy Roberts after Kennedy's assassination in 1963. His left-facing profile appears dignified and calm, symbolizing leadership and remembrance. Above his head is the inscription Liberty, while the national motto, In God We Trust, appears below his neck. Around the lower edge is the dual date 1776 to 1976, distinguishing it from other Kennedy half dollars. The continued use of Kennedy's portrait reflects both respect for his legacy and continuity in American coinage tradition. The reverse design is what makes the bicentennial half dollar especially distinctive. Instead of the traditional presidential seal used on regular Kennedy half dollars, this coin features a design by Seth G. Huntington, who won a nationwide competition sponsored by the U.S. Mint. His design depicts Independence Hall in Philadelphia, the historic building where both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were debated and adopted. Above the image appears the inscription, United States of America, and below it the denomination half dollar. To the right of Independence Hall is the motto, E pluribus unum, a Latin phrase meaning out of many, one, symbolizing unity among the states. The detailed engraving of Independence Hall connects the coin directly to the birthplace of American democracy. The building itself remains one of the most visited historic landmarks in the country and is preserved as part of Independence Hall, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The bicentennial half dollar was minted at 3 facilities of the United States Mint: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D-mint mark; and San Francisco, S-mint mark. The Philadelphia and Denver mints produced coins primarily for circulation, struck in a copper-nickel clad composition consisting of outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. San Francisco produced both clad-proof coins and special 40% silver collector versions. The silver composition coins contain 80% silver outer layers bonded to a 21% silver and 79% copper core, resulting in an overall silver content of 40%. These silver versions were sold in special bicentennial proof and uncirculated sets and were never intended for general circulation. The diameter of the coin is 30.6 millimeters. Its weight is approximately 11.34 grams for clad versions and 11.5 grams for silver versions, and it has a reeded edge. In terms of mintage, the bicentennial half dollar was produced in very large numbers, reflecting national enthusiasm for the 200th anniversary celebration. Over 200 million coins were struck for circulation between Philadelphia and Denver combined, making it one of the most widely produced commemorative-style coins in American history. The San Francisco Mint struck several million additional coins in both proof and silver formats. Because of the high mintage, most circulated examples today are worth only slightly above face value, unless they are in exceptional uncirculated condition or part of a silver set. However, high-grade specimens certified by professional grading services can command higher premiums among collectors. The inscriptions on the coin carry deep historical meaning. Liberty reflects the core principle of American democracy, while In God We Trust has appeared on U.S. coins since the Civil War era and became the official national motto in 1956. E pluribus unum dates back to the early days of the Republic and appears on the Great Seal of the United States. The dual date serves as a reminder of the span between 1776, when independence was declared, and 1976, when Americans celebrated 2 centuries of nationhood. During the bicentennial year, patriotic celebrations were held across the country, including parades, reenactments, and special events in historic cities such as Boston, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. Collectors often seek different varieties of the 1776 to 1976 half-dollar. Proof coins from San Francisco are notable for their mirror-like fields and sharp details. Some varieties exhibit minor differences in lettering thickness or strike quality, though there are no major rare varieties comparable to certain other U.S. coins. Silver-proof versions are especially popular because of their precious metal content and historical significance. Original government packaging can also affect value, particularly when coins remain in their original bicentennial sets. From a historical perspective, the bicentennial half-dollar represents more than currency. It symbolizes national pride and remembrance. The decision to redesign circulating coinage for the bicentennial was part of a broader cultural moment in which Americans reflected on their past achievements and future aspirations. The image of Independence Hall reinforces the importance of civic participation and constitutional governance. At the same time, retaining Kennedy's portrait connects modern America of the 1970s with the memory of a president often associated with hope and progress during the 1960s. Today, the 1776 to 1976 half-dollar remains a popular entry point for new coin collectors because it is affordable, historically meaningful, and widely available. Many Americans still encounter it in collections inherited from relatives who saved bicentennial coins as keepsakes. While not rare, its design stands out clearly from regular issues, ensuring that it remains instantly recognizable. Whether viewed as a collectible, a historical artifact, or a simple piece of pocket change, the United States bicentennial half-dollar continues to serve as a tangible reminder of the nation's founding in 1776 and its celebration 200 years later in 1976, the next top. The 1973 United States half-dollar is a circulating coin struck by the United States Mint at its Denver facility, indicated by the small d mint mark located on the obverse front of the coin just below the truncation of President Kennedy's neck. This coin is part of the long-running Kennedy half-dollar series, which was first introduced in 1964 to honor John F. Kennedy following his assassination in 1963. By 1973, the half-dollar had already undergone important composition changes. While the original 1964 issues were struck in 90% silver, and the 1965 to 1970 versions were 40% silver clad, the 1973 D half-dollar is composed of a copper-nickel clad composition, outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, containing no silver. The coin weighs 11.34 grams, measures 30.6 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge. Its large size and distinctive design make it one of the most recognizable modern U.S. coins. Although by the early 1970s, it was no longer widely used in everyday commerce due to reduced demand and public hoarding of earlier silver issues. The obverse of the 1973 D half-dollar features a left-facing portrait of President Kennedy designed by Chief Engraver Gilroy Roberts. The portrait is adapted from Roberts' earlier medallic work and presents Kennedy in a dignified, realistic style. Above the portrait appears the national motto, "In God We Trust," which has been used on U.S. coins since the 19th century and became mandatory on all denominations in the 1950s. The word liberty arches prominently around the top edge of the coin, partially surrounding Kennedy's head, and the date, 1973, appears below the bust. The D mint mark is found on the obverse to the right of Kennedy's neck truncation, viewer's left. The placement of the mint mark on the obverse was standard for Kennedy half-dollars until 1968, after which it was moved to the obverse permanently. Earlier U.S. coins often had mint marks on the reverse. The clear and bold inscription of "In God We Trust" reflects the patriotic emphasis typical of mid-20th century American coinage, especially during the Cold War era, when national identity and religious sentiment were strongly highlighted in federal symbolism. The reverse design of the 1973 D half dollar was created by Frank Gasparo, who served as the ninth chief engraver of the United States Mint. The reverse displays a heraldic eagle adapted from the presidential seal of the United States. The eagle holds an olive branch in its right talon, symbolizing peace, and a bundle of arrows in its left talon, symbolizing military readiness and defense. Above the eagle's head is a ring of stars, representing the states of the Union. The inscription, "United States of America," curves along the top rim, while the denomination half dollar appears along the bottom rim. The Latin motto, "E pluribus unum," meaning "out of many one," is displayed on a banner above the eagle's head. This motto dates back to the founding era of the United States and reflects the unity of the original 13 colonies forming one nation. The reverse design is intricate, with fine details in the eagle's feathers, shield lines, and lettering, though on heavily circulated examples these details can become worn and flattened. In terms of mintage, the 1973 D half dollar had a relatively high production figure, with more than 83 million coins struck at the Denver Mint. Despite this large mintage, many 1973 half dollars, both from Denver and Philadelphia, did not see heavy circulation. By the early 1970s, the half dollar had largely fallen out of favor in daily transactions. Vending machines, cash registers, and public demand focused more on quarters and smaller denominations. As a result, significant quantities of half dollars were stored in bank vaults or released mainly for collectors rather than for active commerce. Because of this, it is common to find 1973 D half dollars in relatively well-preserved condition compared to earlier decades. Uncirculated examples are readily available and generally affordable, often valued only slightly above face value unless in high mint state grades certified by professional grading services. The coin's edge is reeded, with 150 reeds, a feature that historically helped prevent clipping and counterfeiting when coins were made of precious metal. Although the 1973 D contains no silver, the reeded edge continues as a traditional design element. When viewed from the side, the copper core may be visible as a thin reddish stripe between the silvery outer layers. This visual trait distinguishes clad coins from their earlier silver counterparts, which appear uniformly silver in color along the edge. From a collector's perspective, the 1973 D Kennedy half dollar is considered a common date issue. It is widely collected as part of date and mint mark sets of the Kennedy series. High-grade specimens graded MS-65 or higher can command modest premiums, particularly if they display strong luster, sharp strike detail, and minimal contact marks. Proof versions of the 1973 half dollar were struck at the San Francisco Mint, without a D mint mark, but the 1973 D itself was issued only in business strike format for circulation. There are no major known varieties or errors unique to the 1973 D issue that are widely recognized, though minor die cracks or strike variations can occasionally be found by specialists. Historically, the 1973 D half dollar represents a transitional era in American coinage, post-silver, modern clad composition, and a time when the half dollar's role in commerce was diminishing. Yet it remains an important part of U.S. numismatic history due to its connection to President Kennedy and the enduring symbolism of its inscriptions, "Liberty, in God we trust," and "E pluribus unum." These inscriptions, combined with the dignified portrait and powerful eagle reverse, reflect themes of unity, faith, strength, and national identity. Although not rare or highly valuable in monetary terms, the 1973 D half dollar carries cultural and historical significance, representing both a tribute to a fallen president and an evolving chapter in the story of American coinage, the next top. The 1974 D United States half dollar is part of the Kennedy half dollar series, which was first issued in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy after his assassination in 1963. The 1974 D coin was minted at the Denver Mint, as indicated by the small D mint mark located on the obverse front of the coin just below Kennedy's neck truncation. By 1974, the half-dollar was no longer made of silver. Instead, it was struck in a copper-nickel clad composition. Outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. The coin weighs approximately 11.34 grams, has a diameter of 30.6 millimeters, and a reeded edge. The obverse design features a left-facing portrait of President Kennedy, designed by Chief Engraver Gilroy Roberts. Around the top edge is the word Liberty. The national motto, "In God We Trust," appears in 2 lines beneath Kennedy's chin, while the year 1974 is centered at the bottom. On the reverse back, designed by Frank Gasparo, is a heraldic eagle adapted from the presidential seal, holding an olive branch in its right talon, symbolizing peace, and arrows in its left talon, symbolizing readiness for defense. Above the eagle's head are rays and a ring of stars. The inscription, "United States of America," curves around the top edge, and half-dollar is written along the bottom edge. The Latin phrase, "E pluribus unum," meaning out of many one, appears on a banner above the eagle's head. In 1974, the Denver Mint produced over 79 million examples of the 1974 D half-dollar for circulation, making it a common coin today. Because of the high mintage and the fact that half-dollars were not widely used in daily commerce during the 1970s, many examples were saved in relatively nice condition. Most circulated 1974 D half-dollars are worth only face value, 50 cents, while uncirculated specimens may carry a modest premium depending on condition. Coins graded in high mint state, MS 65 or higher, by professional grading services can be more valuable to collectors. There are no major rare varieties known for the 1974 D issue, although collectors sometimes look for strong strikes, full details in Kennedy's hair, and clean surfaces free of contact marks. The coin reflects an era when the half-dollar denomination was gradually declining in everyday use, partly due to the removal of silver from circulating coinage after 1970 and the public tendency to save Kennedy halves as keepsakes. Even so, the 1974 D remains an important part of modern U.S. coinage history, representing both the enduring legacy of President Kennedy and the evolution of American coin production in the post-silver era. The next top. The United States of America half-dollar, 1985 P, is a circulating U.S. coin struck at the United States Mint in Philadelphia in 1985, carrying the P mint mark. By 1985, the half-dollar design in use was the Kennedy half-dollar, first introduced in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy following his assassination in 1963. The obverse front of the 1985 P half-dollar features a left-facing portrait of Kennedy, designed by Chief Engraver Gilroy Roberts. Around the rim appears the inscription Liberty, while the national motto, "In God We Trust," is displayed prominently below the chin and above the date, 1985. The small P mint mark, indicating production at the Philadelphia Mint, appears to the right of Kennedy's portrait near the date. This was significant because prior to 1980, Philadelphia coins generally did not carry a mint mark, but the practice changed to include the P on most denominations. The reverse, back, was designed by Frank Gasparo and depicts a heraldic eagle adapted from the Great Seal of the United States. The eagle holds an olive branch in its right talon and a bundle of arrows in its left, symbolizing peace and readiness to defend the nation. Above the eagle's head is a cluster of stars, and across the top rim reads, "United States of America," while the denomination half-dollar curves along the bottom edge. The Latin motto, "E pluribus unum," meaning out of many one, appears on a banner above the eagle's head, reinforcing the theme of unity among the states. By 1985, the composition of the half-dollar had long since shifted from its original silver content. While the 1964 Kennedy half-dollars were struck in 90% silver and 10% copper, and the 1965 to 1970 issues contained 40% silver, the 1985 P half-dollar was made of a copper-nickel clad composition. Outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This gives the coin a total weight of approximately 11.34 grams and a diameter of 30.61 millimeters, with a reeded edge. The change away from silver occurred due to rising silver prices in the 1960s, which led to hoarding and a nationwide coin shortage. By the mid-1970s, half-dollars were rarely seen in everyday circulation, and by 1985, they were primarily produced for collectors and for limited commercial use, such as in casinos and certain vending applications. The mintage of the 1985 P half-dollar reached into the tens of millions, though far fewer entered active circulation compared to smaller denominations like quarters or dimes. The inscriptions on the coin carry deep historical meaning. Liberty has appeared on U.S. coinage since the nation's founding, representing the core American ideal of freedom. In God We Trust, first appearing on U.S. coins during the Civil War era in the 1860s, became the official national motto of the United States in 1956. Its placement on the Kennedy half-dollar continues a long tradition of acknowledging faith and national heritage. E pluribus unum, adopted in 1782 as part of the Great Seal, emphasizes the union of the original 13 colonies into one nation and continues to symbolize unity among all 50 states. The heraldic eagle design reflects strength, sovereignty, and independence, consistent with American symbolism dating back to the 18th century. From a collector's perspective, the 1985 P. Kennedy half-dollar is generally common in circulated grades due to its high mintage and base metal composition. In typical circulated condition, it is worth face value, 50 cents. However, coins in uncirculated, mint state, condition with strong luster and minimal contact marks may command a modest premium, particularly those graded MS-65 or higher by professional grading services. Proof versions were also struck in 1985 at the San Francisco Mint, bearing the S Mint mark, but those differ from the Philadelphia issue and were produced specifically for collectors in special proof sets. Unlike earlier silver issues, the 1985 P contains no precious metal value beyond its copper and nickel content, which is minimal. Historically, the half-dollar denomination itself dates back to 1794, making it one of the oldest denominations in continuous U.S. coinage. Over time, it has featured numerous designs, including the flowing hair, drape bust, cap bust, seated Liberty, Barber, walking Liberty, Franklin, and finally the Kennedy series. By 1985, the Kennedy half-dollar had already become one of the longest-running designs in U.S. history, surpassed only by a few other enduring motifs. Despite its limited everyday use in modern commerce, the half-dollar remains an important collectible and symbolic piece of American numismatic heritage. The 1985 P issue stands as a typical example of mid-1980s U.S. coin production. Practical in composition, patriotic in design, and primarily maintained through collector interest rather than widespread circulation the next top. The 1992 P United States half-dollar is part of the long-running Kennedy half-dollar series, a denomination first introduced in 1964 to honor the late President John F. Kennedy following his assassination in 1963. By 1992, the half-dollar was no longer widely used in everyday commerce, but continued to be struck primarily for collectors and Federal Reserve orders. The P Mint mark indicates that the coin was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the main facilities of the United States Mint. Prior to 1980, Philadelphia coins typically carried no mint mark, but starting in that year, the P Mint mark began appearing on circulating coinage from that mint. The 1992 P half-dollar is composed of a copper-nickel clad composition, consisting of outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This composition has been standard for half-dollars intended for circulation since 1971, when rising silver prices led the mint to discontinue silver in regular issue halves. The coin has a diameter of 30.61 millimeters, a weight of 11.34 grams, a reeded edge, and a thickness of approximately 2.15 millimeters. The obverse, front, of the 1992 P half-dollar features a left-facing portrait of President John F. Kennedy. The design was originally prepared by Chief Engraver Gilroy Roberts, whose initials JAR appears subtly on the truncation of Kennedy's neck. The portrait is based on a medallic design Roberts had earlier created for Kennedy's presidential medal. Surrounding the portrait are important inscriptions that reflect the nation's identity and values. The word liberty arcs along the top rim of the coin, symbolizing the foundational American principle of freedom. The phrase, "In God We Trust," appears in two parts on either side of Kennedy's neck, "In God" to the left and "We Trust" to the right. This motto has appeared on U.S. coins in various forms since the Civil War era and was officially adopted as the national motto of the United States in 1956. Below the portrait is the date 1992, and just above the date is the small p mint mark identifying Philadelphia as the mint of origin. The reverse, back, of the coin displays a heraldic eagle adapted from the Great Seal of the United States. This design was prepared by mint sculptor-engraver Frank Gasparo, whose initials FG appear beneath the eagle's tail feathers. The eagle holds an olive branch in its right talon, symbolizing peace, and a bundle of arrows in its left talon, representing military readiness and defense. A shield with vertical stripes covers the eagle's chest, signifying the original 13 states unified under one federal government. Above the eagle's head is a constellation of stars arranged in a circular pattern. Around the upper rim appears the inscription, United States of America, while the denomination half-dollar curves along the lower rim. The Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, is displayed on a banner above the eagle's head, expressing the union of the states into one nation. In terms of mintage, the 1992 P. Kennedy half-dollar had a production total in the millions, though significantly lower than in the early years of the series, when half-dollars circulated more actively. By the early 1990s, most half-dollars were struck mainly for collectors, and many were sold in mint sets rather than released widely into circulation. The coin was also available in uncirculated mint sets produced by the United States Mint, which included examples of each denomination struck that year. The 1992 P half-dollar does not contain silver unless it is part of special 1992 S silver-proof set. Regular Philadelphia issues are strictly clad. In average circulated condition, the 1992 P half-dollar typically carries only face value, though uncirculated or high-grade examples may command a modest premium among collectors. Coins graded MS-65 or higher by professional grading services may be valued somewhat higher, depending on condition and market demand. The year 1992 is also notable within the Kennedy half-dollar series because it marked the 200th anniversary of the United States Mint, originally established in 1792 following the passage of the Coinage Act signed by President George Washington. Although no major design change occurred on the regular 1992 P half-dollar, special commemorative and proof issues were produced that year to celebrate the Mint's bicentennial. Despite its limited use in everyday transactions, the half-dollar denomination continues to symbolize an important part of American numismatic history. The Kennedy half-dollar remains a tribute to President Kennedy's legacy and a lasting emblem of mid-20th century American coinage design. Collectors appreciate the 1992 P issue both as part of complete date and mint collections and as an example of modern U.S. clad coinage that bridges the era between silver coinage and today's circulating currency.